The following video is the Employee Policy Manual for Barrington School, effective February 2021. Introduction. The Employee Policy Manual, the manual, is a compilation of personnel policies, practices, and procedures currently in effect at Barrington School and all franchise locations, hereinafter collectively referred to as the Barrington School. It is intended to be an informative only and to provide a description of Barrington School policies, practices, and procedures. If an employee does not understand a policy in this manual, please speak with the Center Director for further clarification. The manual and the policies are not contracts with any employee. Nothing in this manual creates, nor is intended to create, a promise or representation of continued employment for any employee upon which the employee should rely. The employee is employed at will. The manual is current as of the publication date. Barrington School may change, withdraw, apply, or amend any of the policies or benefits, including those covered in this manual, at any time, with or without notice. The Barrington School Employee Policy Manual is not intended to be an all-inclusive document. Employees are to follow administrative rules and conduct themselves appropriately at all times. Barrington School are at-will employers. This manual is not intended as an express or implied contract of employment. Barrington School reserves the right to terminate the association of any employee at any time, with or without cause. The Barrington School is a term used for all Barrington schools, the Barrington School, and the Barrington franchise locations. The following section, Section 1, will cover employment policies. 1.1 Equal Employment Opportunity. Barrington School does not discriminate on the basis of race, color, religion, national origin, sex, age, sexual preference, disability, or veteran status in their procedures of employment, including hiring, promotion, discipline, discharge, pay, fringe benefits, job training classification, and/or referral. Barrington Schools abide by all federal and state laws regarding employment practices, including but not limited to the Americans with Disability Act. 1.2 Immigration Law Compliance. Barrington School will not hire any person who has not completed an INS Form I-9, the Employment Eligibility Verification Form, documenting that employee's identity and legal right to work in the United States. All employees must complete the employee section of the INS Form I-9 before their first day of employment. The employee has 3 days to present valid proof of identification and that they are legally authorized to work in the United States. All staff members must, within 3 days upon request, provide any updated identification documents. 1.3 Workplace Harassment. Any harassment of an associate, whether agent, employee, or applicant, because of race, color, sex, religion, national origin, age, military status, or handicap is clearly prohibited and will not be condoned. Sexual harassment is one particular form of discrimination that is illegal and violates Barrington School's Equal Employment Opportunity Policy. No agent, employee, staff member, customer, or vendor, male or female, may sexually harass an employee, agent, or other person associated with Barrington School, including but not limited to making unwelcome sexual advances or requests for sexual favors, or other verbal or physical conduct of a sexually suggestive nature, or 2, making submission to or rejection of such conduct the basis for employment, continued employment, or other employment decisions affecting the employee, or 3, creating an intimidating, hostile, or offensive working environment by such conduct. Anyone who has been found to have violated this policy will be subject to appropriate discipline, including discharge from association or employment. This policy applies to men and women and is not limited to supervisor-employee or manager-agent relations or to conduct occurring on premises or during work hours. Any person who believes that he or she is being or has been sexually harassed by another agent, employee, customer, or client should promptly notify their supervisor or the Equal Opportunity Officer, the area manager, at 7100 Muirfield Drive, Suite 200 in Dublin, Ohio, 43017. The phone number is 614-791-0050, and we ask that you do so in writing. The writing should set forth the specific details of the harassing behavior, including the date, time, place, and witness, if any. An investigation will be undertaken immediately upon notification. All complaints will be handled in a prompt, confidential manner insofar as the investigation permits. There will be no adverse action directed toward any complaining person or witness as a result of making or supporting the complaint, unless there was clearly bad faith. Violations of the harassment and discrimination policy shall not be permitted and shall result in appropriate disciplinary action up to and including termination. Barrington School will not tolerate retaliation toward any staff person who reports, charges, testifies, and/or assists in an investigation involving harassment claims. 1.4 Ethics and Abuse. Professionals, employees, and volunteers of Barrington School shall not engage in sexual abuse, sexual harassment, sexual misconduct, and physical abuse, physical neglect, lack of supervision, emotional maltreatment, educational maltreatment, and/or moral legal maltreatment of children, youths, and adults. Definitions. Sexual abuse. Sexual abuse means unwarranted physical conduct of a sexual nature, sexual conduct, or sexualized behavior, and may include, by example, touching, fondling, other physical contact, and sexual relations. Sexual harassment. Sexual harassment is any unwanted sexual advance or demand, either verbal or physical, that is reasonably perceived by the recipient as demeaning, intimidating, or coercive. Sexual misconduct. Sexual misconduct means a chargeable offense. Physical abuse, any act of omission or an act that endangers a person's physical or mental health. Physical neglect. A caretaker does not take adequate precautions, given a child's, youth, or vulnerable person's particular emotional developmental needs, to ensure his or her safety in and out of the residence. Lack of supervision. A caretaker does not take adequate precautions, given a child's, youth, or vulnerable person's particular emotional developmental needs, to ensure his or her safety in and out of the residence. Emotional maltreatment. Persistent or extreme thwarting of a child's, youth, or vulnerable person's basic emotional needs, such as the need to feel safe and accepted. Educational maltreatment. A caretaker fails to ensure that a child, youth, or vulnerable person receives adequate education. Moral legal maltreatment. A caretaker exposes or involves a child, youth, or vulnerable person in illegal or other activities that may foster delinquency or antisocial behavior. 1.5 Drug-free workplace. We are committed to protecting the safety, health, and well-being of all staff and other individuals in the workplace. We recognize that alcohol abuse and drug use pose a significant threat to these goals. Barrington School has established a drug-free workplace program that balances the respect for individuals with the need to maintain a drug-free environment. It is expected that all employees will assist in maintaining a work environment free from the effects of alcohol, drugs, or other intoxicating substances. Compliance with the substance abuse policy is made a condition of employment. Employees are prohibited from the following when reporting for work: while on the job, on the Barrington School's premises or surrounding areas, or in any vehicle used for the Barrington School's business. The unlawful use, possession, transportation, manufacture, sale, dispensation, or other distribution of an illegal or controlled substance or drug paraphernalia. The unauthorized use, possession, transportation, manufacture, sale, dispensation, or other distribution of alcohol, and being under the influence of alcohol or having a detectable amount of an illegal or controlled substance in the blood or urine. A controlled substance means a drug or other substance as defined in applicable federal laws on drug abuse prevention. Any employee violating these prohibitions will be subject to disciplinary action up to and including termination. Any employee convicted under the criminal drug statute for a violation occurring while on the job, on the Barrington School's premises, or in any vehicle used by the Barrington School's business must notify the Barrington School no later than 5 days after such a conviction. A conviction includes any finding of guilt or plea of no contest and/or imposition of a fine, jail sentence, or other penalty. The Barrington School has the right to randomly drug and alcohol test employees. If the individual refuses to take the drug or alcohol test within the allotted time, they will be terminated from their current position. Drug and alcohol testing will be carried out in compliance with any applicable state and federal laws and regulations. We recognize that employees suffering from alcohol and drug dependence can be treated. We encourage any employee to seek professional care and counseling prior to violation of this policy. 1.6 Smoke-Free Workplace. Due to the nature of our business and in an effort to promote the health and wellness of all staff and customers, Barrington School are a smoke-free environment. Center support may not smell of third-hand smoke while working in the centers. There is absolutely no smoking permitted anywhere on Barrington School's property, inside any location, or inside any vehicle owned or operated by Barrington School. Smoking paraphernalia is not permitted inside any Barrington School's facility or to be kept in the view of children anywhere on Barrington School's property. Any employee who violates this policy is subject to disciplinary action up to and including termination. 1.7 No solicitation. To protect Barrington School and their staff from unnecessary distractions, solicitation and other activities among staff, and the distribution of literature or the sale of or giveaway of any products are prohibited on Barrington School's owned or operating sites. Solicitation is defined as the approach of another person with a cause. Work time may not be used for solicitation. Any activities related to Barrington School fundraising are not prohibited under this no solicitation policy. Electronic devices owned by Barrington School may not be used for any solicitation purposes. Any employee who violates this policy is subject to disciplinary action up to and including termination. 1.8 Weapons Policy. In the interest of maintaining an environment that is safe and free for its staff and clients, Barrington School prohibits the wearing, transporting, storage, presence, or use of dangerous weapons on Barrington School's property, regardless of whether the person is licensed to carry the weapon. Any employee who violates this policy is subject to disciplinary action up to and including termination. Office policy prohibits carrying of firearms on any Barrington School's property. All Barrington Schools will have posted guidelines as to our policy on firearms. 1.9 Confidentiality. Barrington Schools safeguard the right to confidentiality in accordance with the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, HIPAA, state and/or other federal laws. Additionally, Barrington Schools administrators shall protect all confidential information related to staff and children. 1.10 Employment at Will. The employment is voluntary and is subject to termination by the employee or Barrington School at will, with or without cause, and with or without notice at any time. Nothing in the policies of Barrington School or in this manual shall be interpreted to be in conflict with or to eliminate or modify in any way the employment at will status of Barrington School's employees and or staff. The personnel policies found here are not intended to be a contract of employment. 1.11 Uniform Policy. The required uniform is as follows. Employees can wear khaki, gray, or black pants, shorts, skirts, or capri pants in good condition. No denim material, spandex, sweatpant material, velour material, wind pants, and they cannot be stained, spotted, or torn. Employees must wear a polo shirt or collared button-down dress shirt ironed with the Barrington School logo embroidered on the chest. Employees are permitted to wear solid white, black, or gray shirts under their Barrington School polos. Staff may also wear a Barrington School logo jacket or Barrington School logo sweater over their Barrington School logo polo. These items may be purchased from Barrington School. Anything besides pants, shorts, skirts, or capri pants worn in the classroom must have Barrington School logo. While working in the kitchen, staff are required to completely contain their hair by wearing an approved head covering. Inappropriate dress includes, but is not limited to, wind pants, scrubs, sweatpants and leggings, short shorts or skirts. Shorts and skirts may not be more than 4 inches above the knee or fingertip length. Halter tops or midriff tops, inappropriate sizing in clothing, lettered t-shirts advertising commercial products, hats of any kind. Kitchen staff is required to wear Barrington School approved head covering based on the Board of Health rules, and flip-flops or sandals with open toes without a backstrap. You must be able to run in your shoes. All tattoos must be appropriate and may not contain the following: religion, flags, profanity, or violence. Any tattoos containing religion, flags, profanity, or violence must always remain covered. The administrator will determine appropriate dress. All employees are required to wear Barrington School name tag given to you during orientation. If a Barrington School employee is out of uniform, they must correct the uniform and the violation will be documented on their quarterly evaluation. Personal appearance, proper hygiene, and appropriate attire are important to our work practices. Staff are permitted to wear jeans with their logoed staff shirts on Fridays. Jeans cannot be torn, tattered, stained, etc. Staff that currently have piercings must have them flat to the skin, small with no rings. No tongue, eyebrow, dermal, or lip piercings allowed. The administrator will determine appropriate dress. 1.12 Management Uniform Policy. Management personnel are a reflection of Barrington School, and therefore they need to be well groomed and well dressed. Management must be dressed in professional ironed attire every day, minimum business casual, no gym shoes, Crocs, jeans, or Barrington School polo shirts. If management is out of uniform, they will be written up. Personal appearance, proper hygiene, and appropriate attire are important to our work practices. Staff that currently have piercings must have them flat to the skin, small with no rings. No tongue, eyebrow, dermal, or lip piercings allowed. 1.13 Information Technology. Barrington schools seek to safeguard a productive working environment free of harassment, to prevent unauthorized access to Barrington School systems, and to otherwise protect the integrity of work-related information. In order to protect work-related information in the working environment, Barrington School has adopted the following information technology usage policy. Privilege versus right. Access to Barrington School's computer network and all related electronic technology is a privilege, not a right. Access entails responsibility. Each user of the network must understand that he or she takes full responsibility for his or her actions. Inappropriate use may result in disciplinary action or criminal prosecution under appropriate state and federal laws. Policy for usage. Email, voicemail, internet, telephones, iPads, iPods, computers, photocopiers, fax machines, and all other electronic technology provided at or through Barrington School are the properties of Barrington School. Barrington School reserves the right to monitor communications made on Barrington School's electronic technology with or without notice. Social networking via technology with families which are enrolled in the program, past or present. All conversations relating to enrolled or disenrolled children, families, staff, anything or anyone related to Barrington School is considered confidential and may not be discussed in person, via social media, email, or any other method. Before a school can tell a potential family there is no room at your center for enrollment, a call must be made to the area manager. General rules. Email, voicemail, internet, telephones, iPads, iPods, computers, photocopiers, fax machines, and all other electronic technology provided at or through the Barrington School in the offices or otherwise generally are for business use only. Personal data and files may not be stored on the Barrington School's computers, iPads, and other electronic technology. Internet usage. Internet, iPads, computers, and all other electronic technology provided by Barrington School may be used for business-related internet browsing. Generally, Barrington School employees should not use Barrington School's electronic technology for recreational or personal internet browsing. Under no circumstances may Barrington School's electronic technology be used for web browsing with sites containing inappropriate content. Under no circumstances may Barrington School's electronic technology be used for communications with or communication methods provided by websites containing inappropriate content. 1.13 Information Technology Continued. Email usage. If an employee maintains email files on Barrington School's electronic technology, those files are not considered private or confidential and may be reviewed by Barrington School at Barrington School's sole and absolute discretion. Employees will provide, at the request of the Barrington School, copies of any email communications they possess regarding any client, customer, or transaction involving Barrington Schools and/or its employees. Employees may not defame any person in any email communication. Employees may not use inappropriate language in any email communication, including but not limited to profanity, hate speech, and sexual explicit speech. Employees will be solely responsible for any contracts obligating them entered via an email communication. All email communications must conform to state and federal laws. Any communications transmitted or communication methods used via Barrington School's electronic technology must be appropriate and within all applicable local, state, and federal laws. Under no circumstances may Barrington School's electronic technology be used to communicate any type of inappropriate content or language. Employees must obey all applicable laws and regulations in their business and personal use of Barrington School's computers. This includes use for email and internet browsing. Applicable areas of the law include copyright, trademark, defamation of character, libel, slander, fraud, and misrepresentation. Privacy. Because the computers and communication systems, including all networking systems, are owned by the Barrington School, all material, communications, information, and usage may be monitored and regulated by Barrington School in any way, method, or manner deemed necessary and appropriate. No employee shall retain, maintain, or own any rights to any information or communication method stored on or routed through Barrington School's electronic technology. No employee shall have any privacy rights regarding any information accessed or created, communication transmitted, or activity conducted using Barrington School's electronic technology, regardless of the reason for the computer use. 1.14 Electronic Device Usage and Personal Property. All personal electronic devices and personal property, including purses, must be kept in an area designated by the administration or in your personal vehicle. Barrington schools are not responsible for lost or stolen property. Coats may be in the classroom. All coat pockets must be empty and are subject to search. Teachers are not permitted to take personal cell phones, smartwatches, or any Wi-Fi or Bluetooth cellular service devices into their classrooms. Personal cell phones, tablets, iPads, Fitbits, smartwatches, or anything that is able to surf the internet and or receive or send text messages are not permitted in the classroom under any circumstances. All devices provided by the Barrington School are to be used solely for tasks approved by administration. Electronic devices are never to be used in the restrooms or changing areas, including diaper changing stations. In addition, all employees are responsible for ensuring that photographs taken do not contain images of restrooms or changing areas. If this policy is violated, it will result in disciplinary action up to and including termination. If the employee is using the center phone in the classroom, they need to have another employee step into the classroom to cover ratio until the employee is finished with the phone. The phone is to be used in emergency situations only. 1.15 Parking Policy. Employees must reserve the parking spaces closest to the center for parents. Employees should use the spaces farthest from the center. The staff need to fill all parking spaces opposite the building first. 1.16 Violence-Free Workplace. It is Barrington School's policy to provide a workplace that is safe and free from all threatening and intimidating conduct. Therefore, Barrington School will not tolerate violence or threats of violence of any form in the workplace, at work-related functions, or outside of work if it affects the workplace. This policy applies to employees, clients, customers, guests, vendors, and persons doing business with Barrington School. It will be a violation of this policy for any individual to engage in any conduct, verbal or physical, which intimidates, endangers, or creates the perception of intent to harm persons or property. Examples include, but are not limited to, physical assault or threats of physical assault, whether made in person or by means, i.e., in writing, by phone, fax, or email. Verbal conduct that is intimidating and has the purpose or effect of threatening the health or safety of a coworker. Possession of firearms or any other lethal weapon on Barrington School's property in a vehicle being used on Barrington School's business, in any Barrington School's owned or leased parking facility, or at work-related functions. Any other conduct or acts which management believes represents an imminent or potential danger to workplace safety or security. Anyone with questions or complaints about workplace behaviors which fall under this policy may discuss them with a supervisor. Barrington School will promptly and thoroughly investigate all reported occurrences or threats of violence. Violations of this policy will result in disciplinary action up to and including immediate termination of employees. Where such actions involve non-employees, Barrington School will take action appropriate for the circumstances. Where appropriate and or necessary, Barrington School will take whatever legal actions are available and necessary to stop the conduct and protect employees and property. The following section, Section 2, will cover standards of conduct and discipline. 2.1 Employee Conduct. Employees shall conduct themselves in a professional manner. This includes, but is not limited to, using work time efficiently and appropriately, arriving at work on time, treating colleagues, staff, customers, and their families and guests with respect, and refraining from words or deeds that reflect adversely on Barrington School. Courtesy should be paid to each employee of Barrington School in such areas as bathroom etiquette, if no or low, toiletry supplies, replace or report, closed doors, knock before entering, meetings in progress, low voices, minimal traffic through conference room, and office supplies, if no or low, replace or report. 2.2 Employee Discipline. Acceptable employee conduct is necessary for the orderly operation of any business and for the benefit, protection, and safety of persons and property. Job performance discrepancies, violations of the policy and procedure manual, or engaging in any act that the Barrington Schools views as inappropriate or detrimental to the interests of its employees or persons with whom we do business may result in disciplinary action up to and including termination. Examples of inappropriate behavior are possession of firearms, explosives, or other weapons on Barrington Schools property, abusive, malicious, threatening, rude, or unprofessional conduct to employees, students, or customers, insubordination or refusal to obey instructions, releasing confidential information to unauthorized individuals, unauthorized use or possession of Barrington Schools and/or another individual's property, feeding or horseplay, acts outside of the workplace which could have an adverse impact on customers or employees and Barrington School, act of a dangerous or destructive nature, including abuse, misuse, or destruction of Barrington Schools and/or another individual's property, dishonesty, including without limitation, providing false record or document, for example, time record, business records, employee information forms and records, and employment application, sleeping or loitering on the job, unacceptable attendance record, possession, consumption, use, or abuse of illegal drugs or controlled substances or other prescribed controlled substances on Barrington Schools property, possession, consumption, use, or abuse of alcoholic beverages on Barrington Schools property, neglect of duty, laziness, or incompetence, acts detrimental to the morale of other employees, children, or their families, unacceptable work performance or behavior, violation of other Barrington Schools policies and procedures, disregard for the Ohio Department of Job and Families child daycare licensing regulations. Staff will eat with the children. Staff are not permitted to eat different food in view of the children. Staff may have cool or cold beverages in a Barrington School logo or non-marked cup or mug with lid. To maintain the safest environment, all guests, not limited to staff and friends and/or the school families, must register with the center director if they stay longer than drop-off or pickup. These rules certainly are not all-inclusive. Barrington School may impose disciplinary actions of its choosing with employees because of other behavior and situations. The following forms of disciplinary action may be taken when, in Barrington School's sole discretion, it is appropriate: verbal warning, written reprimand, suspension without pay, and/or discharge. Violation of any Ohio Department of Job and Family Service serious risks can result in a 3-day unpaid suspension or termination. The above listed disciplinary measures are not exhaustive and do not obligate Barrington School to administer discipline on a progressive basis. Nothing set forth in this discipline section alters or should be construed to alter your employment at will relationship. 2.3 Employee Grievance Procedures. Employees are encouraged to discuss any questions or problems with their immediate supervisor and to resolve any issues internally. If the question or problem is not resolved to the satisfaction of the employee, he or she should reduce it to writing and email or call your center's regional supervisor or franchise owner. The contact information will be located on the last page of this document. 2.4 Employee Discrimination Procedures. Discrimination complaints involving an incident or series of incidents which adversely affect an employee due to his or her race, color, religion, sexual preference, national origin, sex, age, disability, or veteran status may be filed by any employee. Employees who utilize or facilitate discrimination complaints are free from retaliation. Please report any violations to regional supervisor or franchise owner. The contact information will be located on the last page of this document. 2.5 Conflicts of Interest. Employees shall not have any direct or indirect interest or activity that directly or indirectly conflicts with their employment at Barrington School. Barrington School's employees agree that the employee will not directly or through another company, from date of employment through 1 calendar year from the date of the employee's termination date, provide child care, consulting, care, or services to any of the Barrington School's clients, customers, or children. Employees may not request or offer to babysit Barrington School's clients, customers, or children. Employees are not able to work at another licensed center while employed with Barrington School. Employees shall not use or attempt to use their position or materials with Barrington School to secure anything of value for personal gain that would not ordinarily accrue to them in performance of their official duties. In addition, it is inappropriate and potentially damaging to customers in Barrington School for any staff to engage in any personal, social, or non-Barrington Schools related relationship with a parent during or following their receipt of services at Barrington School. In the event the employee believes that he or she may have a possible conflict of interest, he or she is responsible for bringing the matter to the regional supervisor for clarification. Our employees are prohibited from taking any job that may interfere with the CACFP, which is the Child and Adult Care Food Program. 2.6 Safety. Barrington School strives to provide a clean, hazard-free, healthful, and safe environment in which to work. All employees are expected to take an active part in maintaining this environment. Employees must observe posted safety rules, adhere to all safety instructions provided, and use safety equipment where required. It is the responsibility of each employee to learn the location of all safety and emergency equipment, as well as the appropriate safety contact phone numbers. A copy of the emergency procedures will be kept in each location. Additionally, all employees must report safety violations or injuries to their center director. If an employee is injured at work, they must report the injury to the center director before the end of their shift, complete the appropriate forms, and seek medical treatment if necessary. Employees injured at work will also need to complete a drug and alcohol test on the day the injury occurred. Employees are free from retaliation for such reporting. 2.7 Return to work. Employees must submit a doctor's note stating that they are physically fit for employment in a facility caring for children without restrictions, or a list of restrictions. Barrington School will try to accommodate restrictions. 2.8 Arrests and convictions. Employees whose job duties include transportation of clients must notify Barrington School within 24 hours or prior to their next scheduled workday if they have been convicted of any felony traffic violations. Also, all employees must inform Barrington School if there is any change to their legal driving status. This includes suspended driver's license or cancellation of an automobile insurance policy. Under no circumstances are employees permitted to drive during work hours without a current valid driver's license and insurance on the vehicle they are driving. Employees must also notify the center director if they are arrested or convicted of any of the criminal offenses listed in the Ohio Revised Code, Section 5104.09, or the Administrative Code, Section 5101.2509. 2.9 Education, Credentials, Licensure, and Training. It is the responsibility of each employee to ensure they maintain the minimum qualifications necessary for their position, including maintaining and updating their personal Okra account. Any changes in credentials must be reported to their center director and the appropriate verification provided before the new credentials can be utilized for identification and/or billing purposes. Any employee deemed out of compliance with this policy will have 48 hours to provide the updated information. Employees will be required to complete 6 hours of professional development or step-up required amount of training annually in the following areas: child growth and development, family and community relations, daily planning, child observation and assessments, career development and learning, environments and experiences. If training is not completed, the employee will not receive a merit increase. If the employee fails to attend the training, they will be charged the amount of the training. Employees who fail to attend the required amount of training within their hire date year will lose their lead or assistant teaching position. Employees are required to complete CPR, first aid, child abuse, and communicable disease. Barrington School employees are also required to take ALICE, Alert, Lockdown, Inform, Counter, Evacuate training within their first year of hire and maintain certification in order to receive a merit increase. Employees who fail to remain with the Barrington School 1 year from the date of the training will be required to return payment. The amount of the class will be taken out of the employee's last paycheck. The centers will be closed 2 days per year for in-service training for all staff. These are mandatory working days for the staff, and request-off forms will not be honored on these days. There will be no child care for any children at the centers on these days. Please plan accordingly. If the employee fails to attend the training, they will be charged the amount of the training. 2.10 Mandated Reporting. As mandated reporters, all employees will report to the Department of Job and Family Services, Children's Protective Services Division, any situation in which abuse or neglect is known or suspected. The following section, Section 3, will cover recruitment and hiring. 3.1 Screening Process. All employees are subjected to pre-employment screening on the basis of merit and by qualifications as outlined in the job description for each position. The screening process may involve reference checks, criminal background checks, education and credential verification, health screenings, immunizations, and driving record checks. This information may also be sought out during reassignment or promotional periods. Barrington School may also use a third-party administrator to conduct part or all of the screening process. All employment is conditional pending successful completion of the screening process. Staff are responsible for the cost of fingerprints and medical exam. The cost of fingerprints will be charged to the corporate account and deducted from the employee's first paycheck. Medical examination should be paid for by the employee. 3.2 Motor vehicles. Employees are subject to a motor vehicle record inquiry. Employees must be 21 or older in order to drive Barrington Schools vehicles. 3.3 Application for employment. All prospective employees shall submit a completed resume or application for employment. False information on the resume or application for employment shall be grounds for determining the applicant ineligible for employment. Accuracy of all information provided on the resume or application for employment shall be subject to verification, including education, background investigation, salary, and former employer checks and references. Employees must complete all forms for employment, including but not limited to Ohio Department of Job and Family Services forms, Barrington School forms, and federal and state forms. The employee is responsible for informing Barrington School of any and all changes that may occur with any form filled out at the time of initial employment. For example, address, marital status, or dependent status. 3.4 Selection for employment. It is the policy of Barrington School to fill vacancies with candidates whose qualifications most nearly meet the needs of the vacancy. Opportunity for employment shall be open to any person who can present satisfactory evidence of qualifications for the position. The following section, Section 4, will cover orientation. 4.1 Orientation. The purpose of the introductory period is to afford an opportunity for employees to demonstrate performance competency consistent with the quality and quantity standards of Barrington School and their particular position. Each employee will complete an orientation before assuming all job duties. 4.2 Job Descriptions. A job description for each position will be maintained. A written job description will be given to all employees on or before their first day of employment. The following section, Section 5, will cover staff classifications. 5.1 Introductory Period. All employees of Barrington School shall be deemed in an introductory period for the first 90 calendar days. During this period, as in any other period, the employee will be observed by the supervisor in their performance of duties to ensure the employee is meeting expectations. If the employee is not meeting expectations within their introductory period, they will be released from all duties. Existing employees moved into new positions should also be subjected to an introductory period of 90 days. 5.2 Salary versus hourly. Employees classified as salary receive compensation for meeting the requirements of their position. Compensation is not based on the number of hours worked. Salaried employees are required to work 5 days and 45 hours a week. Hourly employees receive compensation based on actual time worked. 5.3 Exempt versus non-exempt. Positions are classified as either exempt or non-exempt for pay administration purposes as determined by the Fair Labor Standards Act. Exempt positions are exempt from overtime pay requirements. Non-exempt positions do not meet the FLSA exemption standards, and employees in these positions are paid overtime. 5.4 Full-time versus part-time. Employees who are scheduled to work a minimum of 30 hours per week, 52 weeks a year, and 5 days a week are considered to be full-time and are eligible for full-time benefits after their eligibility period has been met. Employees who are scheduled to work less than 30 hours per week are considered to be part-time. Employees' hours are at the director's discretion and can be changed at any time. The following section, Section 6, will cover general practices. 6.1 Payroll. Staff is paid bi-weekly. Payday is every second Friday. Direct deposit will be credited to the employee's bank account prior to the end of the day. When the payday falls on an official holiday, deposits will be issued the preceding day. All employees must have an active and open checking or savings account for direct deposit. Completed payroll direct deposit forms should be submitted to the center director, and payment will be issued upon employee and bank approval. If a live check must be written, the check will be sent by U.S. Postal Service to the employee's home center. The employee will be able to pick up the check from their home center during normal business hours. Checks cannot be picked up on Saturdays or Sundays. Pay stubs are available online through Barrington School's payroll provider and will not be provided by Barrington School. An activation code will be given to you by your director. If a direct deposit has to be canceled, the employee is responsible to pay the $25 cancellation fee. All mandatory and optional deductions as arranged with the center director upon completion of paperwork will be withheld automatically from the employee's paychecks. Mandatory payroll deductions include federal, state, and local taxes, FICA and Medicare, and any other mandatory deductions required by law. Voluntary deductions include benefits, childcare, background checks, physicals, and any other deductions upon written consent from the employee. Every precaution is taken to ensure that employees are paid correctly. If an employee believes there is an error in their pay, they should notify the center director. Barrington School will make every attempt to adjust the error immediately or no later than the next pay period. State law requires Barrington School to honor garnishment of employee wages as a court or other legal judgment may instruct. The law also provides for an administrative fee to be charged when a garnishment occurs. If an employee is absent on payday and instructs someone to pick up his or her paycheck, a note signed by the employee authorizing the person must be provided before the check can be released. Hourly employees will not be paid if the center is forced to close due to a situation caused by inclement weather or an act of God. 6.2 Work schedules. The director, as mandated by the needs of the center, assigns work schedules. A director may change an employee's work schedule at any time. All employees must clock in and out accurately each day, including breaks. Overtime is not permitted without the director's permission. Employees should not start working before their scheduled start time unless they are asked by management. 6.3 Wages. Merit increases are given at the discretion of management. Raises are not automatic because of longevity. 6.4 Attendance and quarterly review system. Sometimes sickness or some other problem means that an employee will occasionally have to miss a day or two of work or will occasionally have to arrive late or leave work early. Absenteeism and lateness make everyone's job more difficult and can cause a disruption in the daily routine of the children we serve. All call-offs must be made by a phone call to the center management at least 2 hours before the start of the employee's shift. If there is no answer by management when the center opens, a phone call must be made to the center. Example, if you are not able to get a hold of a member of management, you are to leave a message on the management cell phone. If you have not heard a response by the time the center opens, a phone call must be made to the center until you are able to speak with someone directly. A text message and/or an email is considered an unexcused absence. Excused reasons for being away from work. Barrington School will not count any absence or tardiness toward the employee's quarterly evaluation when caused by certain excused reasons, and the employee can submit proper documentation. The following are the only excused reasons which will not reflect in the attendance evaluation: jury duty, occupational injury or illness when dismissed by the center director or assistant director, communicable disease with a doctor's note stating the employee is communicable, a death in the family, a medical emergency requiring hospitalization of self or immediate family member, which is your spouse, child, parent, or sibling, with approved documentation, or a court subpoena provided the subpoena is shown to the director or assistant director immediately after receipt. Quarterly review system. Each quarter throughout the year, the center director will conduct a review for every employee. The purpose of this process is to provide frequent feedback to each employee regarding individual performance. Employees are scored on a scale from 1 to 5, with 5 being the highest. After completing each section of the review, the employee will receive a quarterly percentage as well as a yearly average. 6.5 Weather emergency. A weather emergency occurs when there are hazardous conditions caused by inclement weather. Your center director will establish a weather emergency plan for your center to follow. 6.6 Performance evaluations. Barrington School conducts performance evaluations for the purpose of continuous improvement. The performance evaluations are designed to improve the employee's understanding of his or her job, to encourage staff development, provide constructive feedback, identify training needs, and to acknowledge achievement and set future goals. Employees will be evaluated annually. 6.7 Scheduling paid time off. Time off must be requested in writing as early as possible to the employee's direct supervisor. Employees may not use paid time off for more than 5 consecutive days. Barrington School must maintain adequate staffing at all times. Where conflicts arise, they will be resolved as fairly as possible. 6.8 Jury duty. Any employee called for jury duty is excused from work during such duty. The employee must provide copies of documentation of jury duty service. If the court dismissed the jury or witness early, the employee is expected to return to work as soon as possible. Should the employee's work duties be vital to its operation, Barrington School may ask the court to excuse the employee from jury duty. 6.9 Leave of absence. The employee is responsible for the payment of all insurance premiums for their individual coverage and dependent health insurance coverage, if applicable. This money should be paid to Barrington School by the first of each month that the employee is on approved leave of absence. While on approved leave of absence, the employee will retain their original employment date showing no interruption in service. Credit for paid time off cannot be accrued during an approved leave of absence. During an approved leave of absence, if an employee accepts employment elsewhere, all benefits will be terminated. Any leave of absence is without pay. 6.10 Military leave. Unless the employee voluntarily resigns, employees who volunteer for military duty should be considered on a leave of absence without pay. 6.11 Maternity and paternity leave. If an employee plans to return to Barrington School, a leave of not more than 12 weeks may be granted. It is not considered a break in service. This leave is without pay. 6.12 Separation from employment. Employees may be separated from employment voluntarily or involuntarily by retirement, voluntary resignation, lack of work, or termination. Usually before an employee is terminated, they will be told the reason or reasons and will be consulted by an administrator. However, if any misconduct warranting discipline is severe enough, the administrator may discharge the employee immediately. Any PTO hours left at the time of termination will be forfeited. Barrington School will determine the employee's pay at time of separation based on any outstanding debt owed to Barrington School and whether the individual has in their possession any of Barrington School's property. After a full accounting of the employees and Barrington School's accounts, as determined by Barrington School, a final paycheck will be issued less outstanding amounts to the employee in accordance with state law. Barrington School will issue a check or direct deposit, which is designated as the final payment for all services rendered. If the hourly employee fails to give and work out a 2-week notice of leaving, fulfilling 10 working days, the last 10 working days of pay will be at minimum wage. If a salaried employee or chef does not work out a 4-week notice, fulfilling 20 working days, the last 20 working days of pay will be at minimum wage. The employee must use up all personal time off hours earned before giving notice, or all PTO hours will be forfeited. No PTO can be used during the 2-week notice. No PTO hours will be paid upon termination. If all company property has been returned to your center, your final paycheck will continue to be direct deposited. If the employee owes company property, the final paycheck will be released from the payroll office. Employees which are picking up a physical check are required to sign for their final paycheck. And the employee can physically pick up the paycheck in person with an ID, send along a signed letter with a relative, friend, etc., stating that this person has permission to take the final paycheck and will sign for it with an ID. The employee may elect to have COBRA as a form of health insurance. If the employee does not notify their center director upon their last day of employment, it will be understood that the employee does not wish to take COBRA, and all insurance will be canceled. Upon resignation or termination, the employee should consult the office for possible conversion of their group insurance and to clear up any financial questions. Terminated employees are expected to return any Barrington School's property in their possession. Each employee is required to return 1 shirt and name tag when leaving employment. If not returned, then they will be charged based on the current uniform item rate. 6.13 Government officials, inquiries, visits, subpoenas. Any inquiry by a government official, whether by telephone, letter, or in person, should immediately be forwarded to a supervisor. In the absence of a supervisor, the name of the official and the agency or department of official represents should be obtained along with a contact phone number. A supervisor should be contacted as soon as possible and provided with the above information. If a supervisor is not available and the official is in person, the person receiving the inquiry should not allow any representative from a local, state, or federal office to see any files or any information maintained in the office unless presented with a valid search warrant signed by a federal judge or a judge of the county in which the office is located. The person should refuse to answer any questions of such a representative official unless Barrington School's attorney has authorized the person to answer. If a process server appears in the office with a subpoena for any Barrington School, any employee or agent should accept it. Once accepted, it should immediately be turned over to the center director. If the process server asks for a specific person, only that specific person may accept the subpoena. If the person is not in the office, the person receiving the inquiry should not volunteer any information about the person requested and should not give out home phone numbers or home addresses, even if asked. Refer the inquiry to a supervisor immediately. 6.14 Employee reporting. All employees must report any circumstances or information that could be deemed as unique, uncommon, or important to Barrington School's daily operations. Classroom teachers, chefs, assistant directors, and all other staff members must report directly to the center director. All center directors must report to the director of operations, and all corporate employees must report to their direct supervisor, either the director of operations or the company owner. 6.15 Company Credit Card Policy. Any employee who has been issued a company credit card or any employee who has been approved to use a company credit card must follow all company policies regarding usage and documentation. The company credit card may only be used for purchases approved by the company for which all items will be used for company purposes only. Prior to making a purchase, the employee must, within 5 minutes of making the purchase, submit receipt documentation of the purchase. The receipt must be emailed to the corporate office within 5 minutes of the purchase and must include the following information: name of employee who made the purchase, center location number, and category designation for the purchase. The receipt may not be altered in any way and must be in original form. After emailing the required information, the employee will file a hard copy of the receipt in its original form at the center in any area designated by the administration. The following section, Section 7, will cover benefits. 7.1 Family Medical Leave Act. Under federal law, eligible employees are allowed to take up to 12 weeks of unpaid medical leave with continued medical benefits and restoration of their original or equivalent position upon return when they have met the following requirements: have worked for the same employer for the previous 12 months, have worked at least 1,250 hours in the previous 12 months. 7.2 Holidays. Barrington School recognizes the following 8 paid holidays: New Year's Day, Memorial Day, July 4th, Labor Day, Thanksgiving Day, the Friday after Thanksgiving, Christmas Eve, and Christmas Day. If the paid holiday falls on a Saturday, it will usually be observed on the preceding Friday. If a paid holiday falls on a Sunday, it will usually be observed the following Monday. The centers close at 2:30 p.m. on New Year's Eve. If an employee is in their 90-day introductory period or a seasonal employee, they will not be paid for holidays. Holiday pay will not be paid if the employee is not usually scheduled to work when the holiday occurs, the employee is on leave when the holiday occurs, or the employee is on disciplinary suspension when the holiday occurs. If an employee has an unscheduled absence on the day preceding or following a holiday, they will not be paid for the holiday. Employees with PTO have the first right to request off days before and after a holiday. 7.3 Insurance. The actual insurance coverage varies depending upon the policies of Barrington School with which Barrington School contract. Insurance benefits will be available to all full-time employees who work 30-plus hours a week and have completed their 90-day introductory period. 7.4 401k Plan. Retirement benefits shall be offered to any employee who meets the participation requirements of Barrington School. 7.5 Childcare. Employees will have a 50% discount for their oldest child in their weekly tuition. The discount does not apply to children under 18 months. This discount is only for the hours the employee is working. No other discount will apply. If an employee takes 5 consecutive days off from work or childcare, the employee is required to pay half of the tuition they have been paying. The cost will be deducted from the employee's paycheck. 7.6 Mandated Benefits. All employees will participate in the benefits that are mandated by state and federal laws. These benefits will include workers' compensation, unemployment compensation, and Social Security. 7.7 Workers' Compensation. All employees shall be covered by workers' compensation. If an employee is injured at work, they must report the injury to the center director before the end of their shift, complete the appropriate forms, and seek medical treatment if necessary. Employees injured at work will also need to complete a drug or alcohol test by the close of business hours on the day the injury occurs. 7.8 Unemployment Compensation. Unemployment compensation is another form of insurance which is paid for entirely by Barrington School. Unemployment compensation helps an employee meet a loss of income resulting from unemployment beyond their control by paying certain benefits while they are out of work. This form of protection is in addition to group insurance, Social Security, and workers' compensation. 7.9 Personal Time Off Policy. PTO will be calculated each payroll run for hourly employees. The amount of PTO hours an employee will receive is based on the total hours worked during the pay period. Employees who are employed will receive PTO at a rate of 1 hour of PTO for every 26 hours worked. An employee has the potential to receive up to a maximum of 80 hours of PTO per calendar year, plus extra based on years of service. Seasonal employees are not eligible to accrue PTO. New employees will start to accumulate PTO on their first day of employment and begin using their PTO once they have been employed for 90 days. PTO will be calculated on January 1st each year for salary employees. Non-administrative employees who are on salary will receive 90 hours of PTO annually and will earn 120 hours of PTO annually beginning on January 1st of their 5th year of service. After 5 years of service, full-time employees who work an average of 37.5 hours per week will receive an additional 40 hours of PTO. This will be added to your check throughout the year as 1.54 hours of pay per pay starting the first payroll in January of your 5th year. Part-time employees who work an average of 25.5 hours will receive 25 hours of PTO. This will be added to your check throughout the year as 0.96 hours per pay starting the first payroll in January of your 5th year. Staff has to be in good standing to receive any PTO days. Any employee who has received more than one written verbal notice, a suspension, or probation within the last year will not be eligible to accrue PTO hours for 3 months. Employees who have worked for us for 5 years or more will still continue to earn their extra hours. PTO cannot exceed the following: employees less than 5 years of service, 80 hours, full-time employee over 5 years of service, 120 hours, part-time employee over 5 years of service, 105 hours. Please note you will not be awarded more PTO hours during each pay period if you are at your max limit of PTO hours. PTO hours will never exceed the max limit. If an employee is separated from Barrington School for any reason including but not limited to termination, with or without cause, resignation, retirement, or otherwise, the employee acknowledges that no accrued PTO will be paid out to the employee and that employee acknowledges forfeiture of any and all PTO accrued time. The employee also acknowledges that no additional accrual of PTO will occur over the course of the employee's requisite 2-week separation notice to employer. No PTO hours can be used during the employee's 2-week notice. 7.10 COBRA. If an employee who has been covered by Barrington School's group health insurance plan is terminated because of temporary lack of work or illness and is rehired within 3 months of the layoff, the employee will become eligible to participate in the group health insurance plan after rehire. Terminated employees may continue their group health insurance coverage for 18 months at their own expense on the COBRA plan. Employees whose work hours are reduced to a point where they are ineligible for coverage may also continue coverage for 18 months at their own expense. Employees must notify your payroll office, contact information located on the last page, of their intent to continue coverage within 30 days of their termination date and must pay the premium schedules given by the payroll office. If the employee forgets to notify Barrington School, it will be understood that all insurance coverage will be canceled and the employee does not wish to take COBRA. The employee should get a letter in writing from Barrington School stating that they have coverage. A dependent is no longer eligible for coverage under the employee's group insurance certificate due to an employee's death. A divorced or legally separated spouse or a child ceasing to be a dependent may continue group health insurance for up to 36 months at the expense of the employee or dependent. The dependent must notify the payroll office within 60 days of their intent to continue coverage. Failure to notify the payroll office or pay premiums is considered notice of cancellation of this option. If you have any questions specific to this training, please email info@barringtonschool.com. Someone from our corporate office will be in touch soon to answer your questions.